Good morning and welcome back. This is my second video for today, so I'm really on the ball today. My goal is always to put out one video a week, and it looks like I'm going to get 2 out this week. Very excited. Real quick, I covered it in another video, but this is a new website that I've launched, so check out the video introducing my website, and check out the website, which is ineedvoip.support. So today's tutorial is going to go over a tool that I use a lot when I'm troubleshooting latency issues or bad quality with speech on voice over IP, or if I'm having intermittent connectivity issues. So PingPlotter is a great tool, and basically what it does is it does a trace route from the location that you start the program at to the destination location. So for today, I'm going to use the example is I'm at home. I have an IP phone sitting on my desk here. And I have my office is a couple of miles from here. So what I could use PingPlotter for in that example is I could run it from here to see what kind of connectivity I'm getting back to the office, and is it stable enough to support VoIP. Some other situations that I've had to use this application in the past is one scenario. I was troubleshooting on an MPLS network, and we had great voice quality for a year or two, and then all of a sudden, some of the phones started having very poor voice quality. So what we did is we set this software up, PingPlotter, at several points in the network, and pinged or set it up to trace to other points in the network. And basically what it was doing is it was mapping the routes to each of the locations from other locations and identifying any possible problems. So that was in a kind of a private network environment over MPLS network. One other big case that I worked on that I used PingPlotter for was we had IP phones that were losing connectivity intermittently, and it was hard to pinpoint where or why or which phones because it seemed to be so intermittent. So I set this up in the server room and set up pings to set up traces basically to a different phone off of different switches throughout the network. And ultimately what I was able to find out is that there were only a couple of switches that were having issues. And it was a connectivity issue between two switches, but when the report came in originally, it was intermittent connectivity issues. So this tool was able to help me do some analysis work, and like Wireshark, it'll log the data, so a technician can set this up on site and go back and leave it monitoring. And if the issue happens once every 24 hours or once every 48 hours, leave the laptop on site, leave it tracing, and come back 48 hours later and see what the results are. And most of the time it highlights it clear as day. Anyway, so those are all the reasons. There's many reasons that you can adapt the software, but those are the reasons that I would say use the software. So let me kind of go into the environment. Their website is pingplotter.com. They've got a couple different versions. They've got a free trial that you can download to see if you like the software. This is the interface, which I'll go into with you. And they've got some news. They've also got a real good resource for how to read the results that you're getting. So when you set up PingPlotter, you can go through these examples here And basically they'll say, if you see, if your results are looking like this, this could be a good example. However, the one I thought was really interesting, if you see this pattern here, then you might be looking at bandwidth saturation. So they really, if you go in and spend an hour, dig through this website, it'll go through and teach you all about the tool. It teaches you a little bit about latency, a little bit about jitter, and it explains the theory of how they come up with these results. So if somebody challenges your data, you can tell them how you came up with those results, and it's pretty indisputable. So, another example of where you can use this is like I said, if you're getting intermittent quality of service issues, then this will kind of help you identify at what time of the day, because you can see it keeps a timeline going here. And it might be something where at 5 o'clock, a certain server starts up, doing a batch job to upload files to the internet, and it just bogs down your internet connection. So at 5 o'clock, your voice quality goes to crap. So this will help you kind of identify those issues. So, sorry, long-winded introduction to get to the actual application. So when you load up the application, the installation is pretty straightforward. You click download. It'll prompt you for a license key, or you can go into the trial mode, and you just keep clicking next and selecting the options if you want it to run as a service or what forth. So they've got a couple of different features that you can do on this software. You can actually set it up to, with the Pro version, you can set it up to email you when certain events happen. You can leave it up for constant monitoring. So if you've got a customer that wants to be alerted if their quality of service starts to suffer, then you can set this up to monitor and send out emails when quality of service is impacted. So that was actually something, I've never used it for that. That was something I learned this morning, but I thought that was might be something I'm going to use here in the near future. So here's the main interface. I've already got a workspace created. So workspace, basically what you do is if, for instance, if I wanted to go to google.com, I could just put in a numeric IP address or a URL, and it will translate it. And if I hit trace, basically what it's doing is it's doing a trace route from my computer to the location that resolves. If you do a DNS lookup for google.com, it'll come back with this IP address. So like, for example, so if I ping google.com 74125.227, it gave me a different address, but more or less, depending on what you're trying to get to or how the load is working out, you'll get the IP address back. So you can put in google.com, and then what it'll do is basically it's the equivalent of typing in trace route, trace route google.com. And so what it does is it'll hop every gateway or every router between here and Google. And what it's doing is as it goes, it's monitoring the response time for a packet to get to that site and to return back to your computer. And it's measured in milliseconds here. And so as it does that, it's created. This is the route that your traffic is taking. Now, as you can see here, if you're using a command prompt to do this, I mean, it's very limited information that you're getting, and it's definitely not trending, over time. So this is, I've used this tool for a lot in the past, but I've never gone in to see, exactly the theory of how it works. So this is my explanation of how I translated the information on their website to tell me how it works. Basically, what I understand is that it does a trace route to the location, and then it'll come back and do individual pings to each of the IP addresses along the route to measure these individual statistics. So it does the trace route, gets the route, and then sets up the individual pings, and then monitors the statistics. Excuse me. So, with that being said, and this is giving you a timeline breakdown of each of the hops. And so, like these two hops here, you can see there's no delay, but these are actually both within my residence. 0.1 and 1.254. This is my wireless router, and this is the AT&T router that was provided. Then the very next hop, you see some delay, and that's the delay between my house and the ISP. So, and it seems like it's a big jump, but it's all still within acceptable levels. The here's the jitter timeline, which is basically, this is explaining if I do a ping. If you'll notice, it does 4 pings, and it's telling me 25, 24, 24, 25. And if the difference between those two is the jitter calculation that you're seeing here. So for instance, let's see if they do a round trip total. Yeah. So 0.22 seconds round trip, or milliseconds. So that's really good response time. So this 100% packet loss isn't anything to worry about. That just means that particular router doesn't respond to our request for information. So pings is not echoing the pings. So that's that's not anything to worry about. If you saw a connection, where it said where it was giving you data, and then all of a sudden it stopped giving you data, that might be something to worry about. And that's where you can set up the alerts to say, hey, I'm constantly pinging from this location to this location. Send me an email if anything ever happens to that connection. Like I said, I've never used the email function. The biggest things that I use this software for is for the timeline feature, because I can go into a customer site, and have them install this and leave it running. And I can ping different points, and it can be the wide area network, or it can be the local area network. Because in the network, we deploy IP phones all over the corporate network, and it might be one particular data switch that's having an issue. So what I'll do is I'll put this in the main phone room, and I'll find look at different VLANs, look how the IP addresses are breaking down, and I'll ping a device on maybe one on every switch, maybe one at each remote office. So I'll set up, a whole list of, so I can ping google.com. If I stop, I can add, let's see if I can do, I need VoIP.support. So I'll ping my website. So a few more hops in that one. But I can I can set up multiple locations. And so that's what I would do in a LAN environment is go through and find phones that are scattered throughout the office. And it maybe even set up a trace to the SIP provider if they have SIP trunks, and and set this computer on the same switch as the phone system, and that way I can experience from this computer the same thing that the phone system's experiencing if it doesn't have the analytics within it to be able to tell me that itself. So by doing this, if I've got a switch that's 2 buildings over and an IP phone over there keeps losing connectivity, then I can I can run this program, and then I can come back and say, aha, see, between this time and this time, we lost connectivity, or it might. So the website kind of shows a lot of good examples. So here you might be having bad. If the IP phone was at this location, you might be experiencing some packet loss or poor audio quality, which the red here would kind of indicate poor audio quality. here. They call it wireless interference. So these red lines basically means that the ping packet that they sent didn't receive a response. So it's constantly sending those packets, and if they don't receive responses, every time it will put a little red line there, and then over the timeline feature, you can see how that's going to impact your voice quality. So, as we all know in telecom, data traffic, website browsing, email, getting your emails and stuff like that, all of those features are a lot more tolerable to dropped packets than voice quality is. So, as a VoIP technician, we really have to get a good understanding of the voice quality and of how many packets are being lost, what's the MOS score for the connection. And this software, like I said, is a great tool to be able to do that. So, I mean, these are some of the symptoms that you can identify using this tool. So, this is an example. Good bandwidth saturation, wireless interference, wiring issues, bad wiring, more bandwidth saturation, far end provider. So in this trace here, you can see everything was great all the way up until it hit this router here. So the connection between here and here, there's something going on. I use this with the MPLS network, and I was able to tell the provider, hey, I'm doing good all the way up until this IP address, but somewhere between the jump between that IP address and that IP address, I'm starting to see errors in the network. Can you check that out? And man, they love that when you can call in and give them IP addresses of their routers that might be having issues. And sure enough, they looked at the router and found a routing statement that was off, fixed it, and then all the connectivity from here down went back to normal parameters, and we moved about our day. And so, I mean, that was a great application that this software came in handy. So anyway, so they've got, like I said, the website's got a lot of good resources. The actual tool itself, like I said, this video kind of explains some of the ways that I've used it. So this give you like the average response time in milliseconds for packets. And I went and pulled for Avaya off their website. I went and pulled some of their quality of service information, what they're looking for in the network. So they're looking for a network delay of less than 80 milliseconds would yield toll quality conversations. So if I look here, my average is 66 to 67. Well, currently I'm at 67, but the average is 66 milliseconds. So by comparing that, I can say, aha, I'm within their required requirements, and I can even show that to other people and say, hey, yeah, see, my connection's good here. The jitter, this piece I need to understand how they're trying to break that down. The one thing I would tell you about jitter is to watch for the red connections here. Because, for instance, this is probably not anything, because if I get down here, it's not red here. But if it starts to impact the round trip statistics, what they told me, or what I read on the website here is, if some routers along the route may not prioritize the queries for the data. So look at this number here at the end to see if any of these jitter readings are impacting this number. And if this number starts to climb or is intermittent, so meaning that it's real low and then it goes real high, then it's real low and then it goes real high, then start digging into these individual hops to see what may be causing that. And again, the jitter is, this is your response time for a packet, or actually they're doing a sample of packets. an average response time for a group of packets, but this is telling you the variation between the packets arriving. And so that's something. So if you get one packet and then 8 milliseconds later you get another packet, and then 16 milliseconds you get another packet, that's not a good, reliable connection. Now, it's normal for it to fluctuate a little bit, but if you start seeing stuff like that, then if that's consistently happening, then you might want to say, hey, Mr. Provider, please check out this router because I'm getting about a 10% packet loss. And 10% packet loss, if you watch my choppy audio video, it can definitely have an impact on the quality of the conversation. Okay. So going through the menus here, you can save the image, so you can save this and screenshot it off. I usually just use Snippet and cut screenshots and send it to somebody. You can set some of the environmental. They have most everything turned on by default that you would need. If you don't want to look and see your home routers here, you can start at hop 2 or 3 with all your traces. And then the workspace, if for instance, if I go to one customer site, I can set up all the IP addresses for their phone, save that workspace, go to another customer site, set up all the IP addresses for their location, save that workspace, and basically you can create a profile for every site that you go to. And then when you set that, when you walk in, then you set your laptop up, plug it into the network, open that workspace, and say, okay, start tracing, so you don't have to go through and configure this every time. So yeah, I'm kind of glad this is happening here, because here you can see as it hops, or as the traffic is hopping through the network or running through the network to my website, I'm experiencing right now about a 20% packet loss going to this particular router. Maybe nothing to that, because it doesn't seem to be really impacting the overall results. All that may be indicating is that this router's not prioritizing our traffic above whatever else it's doing at the time. Now, if I saw packet loss going all the way down, then that might be an issue. But if I started experiencing quality of service issues, I would definitely call the provider and say, hey, can you check this router out here, because I'm running some traces and I see some packet loss coming from this. And like I said, they're really, really responsive when you can call in and give them that kind of information. Okay, well that's about it. Now you can save, like if you stop this trace, you can save all this timeline data and go back through it later. You can change the time period. So if I want to look at it over a 7-day period, which I do that a lot if I leave it running at a customer site, then literally, it keeps humming along, and then you go back to the site and you can start getting readings like what's their the average packet loss, what is the average round trip for a packet. So it gives you some great data if you see it peaking, or see it. All of these are within acceptable limits. The green color also indicates that. So if you'll notice up here, they've got what their acceptable limits are, what the different variations are, and the fact that you see the background's green on everything is kind of indicating that everything's good there. So you can watch here and you can see this is the low end of the round trip, and you can see this particular route has a high end too, where these are real small variations. These are good. Really kind of suspect of this router, but I'm not experiencing a quality of service issue right now, so I'm not going to dig into it. But if I was, I would be targeting this router here and say, oh, this looks like it could be a possible source of an issue, and check with the carrier and see if they can offer an explanation as to why I'm seeing such delays on this particular trace. Other than that, like I said, between this software and the website and the applications that I've kind of outlined, like I said, you don't have to use it just for quality of service information. You can use it for connectivity information too. So if you're getting reports that something stops working at a certain part of the day or intermittently, then go set this up and set a ping going consistently, and you can go back and look at the results later. And a lot of times I find probably more often than not, I find really good data after I leave this running on a site for a couple of days. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful. If you haven't done so already, one, check out my website, which is ineedvoip.support. And the other thing is subscribe to my channel so you can get updates. Let me know what you think about this software. And in the comment section, if there's any other tools that you use, let me know about those too. I'd be interested to check them out. All right, guys, have a good day.